Hello fellows, let's do a Next 14 to 15 migration with AI today. And what I mean by that is we are actually using the AI as good as possible to guide us through, but not only AI, but Claude Code, which will help us to migrate the changes from Next 14 to Next 15, aka page router to app router, and switching the directives of client-side rendering and server-side rendering. In that example, we actually don't have server-side rendered components because we don't need them, but it's a fairly large code base and it would be a lot of work to do that manually. And we are taking a look how the AI can actually help. So let's get right into it. Let's start with that code base. That code base is a B2B SaaS platform, and the front-end part is built in Next.js. We have Next 14 currently implemented. And when it comes to React, we have React 18, which is quite okay, so we can actually use it. So the bump will be from 14 to 15 in Next.js. And to start that, we have a little npm script, or actually npx, and we're going to leave that running. So it already gives us a code mod. Do you prefer React 18? Yes. Enable turbo pack? Not yet, because let's focus on the task at hand, and then we're taking a look for other things. There it goes. We're doing a little bit of updating here. No, I don't want to deploy to Vercel. Thank you. Good. Okay. So next step would be to get back to the status quo and migrate the page router to the app router. So currently we have pages here, and we have several pages. We have an admin area with pages, so quite a few pages. And all these pages are currently client-side rendered. The problem is, when I took a look at one of those pages, there is no use client directive up there. And now we want to find out if Claude Code is actually a help for us. So what I'm doing next is actually to integrate Claude Code into that existing project. So we start the implementation. Let's go into Claude. So we need to do the installation process first. Do you trust the files? Mostly, yes. Okay. So we're going for an init. What it does now is going to create a wrap up of the entire code base, which we are working with right now. Do you want to create Claude MD? Yes, that is our context. That is very important. So we can update that ongoingly as well. So actually that's it. So we are already started our Claude Code file. Let's take a look into that one. So it wrapped up the very important things we have here. So what is very important to understand is this is the place where you put in the guidelines. And you should put it in because the AI is using that with every prompt. The same with other AI tools as well. And if we see something which is actually not great, or which we need to actually tell the AI, please do that differently, this is the place where we actually do that. So we need to have that one, and we will take a look what actually happens. So what do we have here? All React components should include use client directive at the top, which isn't done yet. So that will be one of the things. I mentioned that, and actually it does see that. So naming Pascal case for components, which is correct, Camber case for variables and functions. That is correct. And folders. I add that because we have quite an inconsistency there, and I want to make it correctly from that point on. Formatting for spaces, that's possible. I don't know that right now. So React, one component per file. We have that rule actually in the linter settings. TypeScript strict mode is enabled. Proper type annotations required. So make sure you stay type safe. Okay, imports. Group imports React, then external libs, then internal. So it actually recognizes how we import things. Component organization, group by feature in folders with index exports. Testing, Cypress for component testing, end-to-end testing. Only focus on component tests. I add here now that testing, always add a test up front, TDD, and have at least a negative and positive test. Good. Error handling, use typed error responses, avoid console log, use exactly. So that's a good starting point, I think. Let's take a look how it works out. So first of all, I want that Claude will update all my components and take a look if the components are actual client components and add the directive use client in the top. So I have written a script for that, which does that, but I want to see how the AI is actually doing that. Because if you use ChatGPT right now or something like that, in a chat form, you can give maybe some ideas how to do that, but you need to do it yourself. With Claude Code, the interesting part, it will be, or I hope, that it actually does it for me. So let's take a look how much it is worth. Please update all components in SRC components and hooks and add use client directive. All files are CSR anyway, that no server-side functionality is actually in the file. We want to migrate to router. So we're giving a little bit more of a thing right now. Anything else? No. Let's take a look what happens. So let's take a look if we're getting ourselves bankrupt now or if it's actually something which will work. So what it does now is to give me I want to scroll correctly. It's a little bit weird. So it does tell us it wants to change something. So it wants to create a file. Oh, why? That's interesting. Instead of just doing that, it gives us a file. That's interesting. I have created something similar. She is actually copying my file, I think. So it's a smart thing. It's a smart move. This AI is as lazy as a human. Okay, so yes, create that one. I was expecting something different right now, to be honest. But yeah, that was surprising. Okay, so now what does it want to do is next? So it wants to actually bash it. Oh. It wants to execute. Oh, wow. I wasn't aware that this is actually possible. So we see 906 files that needed use client directive, 24 files that already had the right directive, 8 server components interface types files that don't need the directive. Why? Because in App Router, all files are basically server-side by default, which was different beforehand. Beforehand, we had it actually vice versa. You needed to basically define with use server that the file shall be executed on the server. So that's an interesting point. So let's take a look what actually happened in my code. What changed? 900 files. Holy. So let's go for code review, right? Yeah, so we have a use client there. In my script, there was a use prettier thing, but I think so not a use prettier. So in my version of that file, we had implemented prettier, but I don't think we will use it here. So why is that actually red? So let's open another one and let's build that thing and take a look how it actually works. So in layout item, we have a problem, it says, and it does. Okay, we have default props. Default props are not a thing anymore. So what we would do next in order to migrate that, we would need to remove default props and move it upwards to basically the props section here, where we basically destruct the props. Oh, it is actually here. And we wouldn't need to have the defaults here. So we would do that now as an example in that file, in that particular file. And let's take a look how that actually works out. So we're going back to Claude and now telling, please update. So I'm a kind person. I ask, please do that. Please update layout item TSX and refactor default props into the prop destructor. So I give a little bit of explanation because I think that is actually a good thing because it's deprecated. So let's take a look what it does. I haven't explained too much of a thing. So it's doing something now. It's reading the files, already a correct file. We see it here. And now it gives us a diff. So it wants to do the following. Do you want to make this edit to layout item TSX? So it wants to add those things in the first step. I say yes. Let's try to have an idea. So it wants to remove the old implementation. I say yes. Or it's mustering. It gives me an overview now, adding value and all these kind of things. That sounds good for me. Let's take a look. The file is already green. So what we have here now is we have it correctly here. It was the correct order as well, and we have it removed here. So was that now something I could have done quicker by actually doing it. Yes, probably it would be faster if I would have done that myself. But, and that's the point now, we have that in quite a lot of files. And what we're going to do next is telling, please redo the same for all the components in SRC components. Let's take a look what he's doing now. Some elevator music would be nice. No? Okay. Now what we have here is, it will ask us now for, oh hell. Okay, I correct myself. I was assuming something, and I really need to stop thinking like that. I was assuming that it will now just, like an automation tool, run through everything. But instead, it was simply creating something for me, which will do that. I still don't know if it's a standard thing. I will test it out in another project. But since I have, and just for your explanation, so when I go into my project now, we have a file here somewhere, this one, update use client in SRC, and he was seeing that, and I have this console log in the end, and they remind me so much now of these things here, right? So I assume he was learning from this project and basically tries to do the very same thing, which I like because I would expect the very same thing from a peer. So don't invent something entirely new. Stay with what was already done in the project so we have a common context and some similarities. Yes, please do that. So the AI is now creating that file. And now it asks me if it shall run that file, which I say okay to. Why not? I would do the same. And now it's doing that. So actually my computer is now doing that with Node. And it's going through the files. Oh, find default props. So now we're getting to the point where we need to find out what is this actually doing. So find default props. So we have checking file, process directory. It will take a look for default props. Okay, it actually does need something there as well. It bashings directly. So it asked me, yeah, do it. So I want to take a look today, a little bit fast forward, how the AI would be reacting towards that thing. So it wants to, there's not much explanation. It just wants to remove it, but I actually have asked for it. So I say yes. What I don't want to do is sitting here now and pressing that for every file. I want to see how solid it is. And I say, don't ask me again for this session. Okay. Yeah. I want to do it again. So let's simply take a look what would happen. Of course, I will not blindly take this and just push it to production. That is a testing purpose for today. And I will, of course, review that with my peers if it's actually a valid solution or not. But I want to find out today. So we have a summary. As a little bit with the scrolling. So the summary is updated the original layout item request, created and ran a script that automatically updated simple cases which handled 6 files, created a script to find remaining files with default props. So it was actually creating a script and run the script to have an idea where those files are instead of looking for itself. I think that is great because that probably saves me some money because that then needs to not be executed, but we will basically get the direct files to it. It finds itself the own pointers. So it's a little bit like a human would do it as well to be more efficient. Manually updated the last 2 files with a more complex patterns. That's interesting. Removed an empty default props object from ripple button. Interestingly, it was thinking there. Added default value for the layout prop indicator. So let's take a look. If we have now in default props, is it still existing? No, it's actually not. That's interesting. Wow. So that was cool. So actually, so far, I'm impressed. So even though it might be not perfect yet, or maybe it was so far, I need to find out in the review, but that is actually quite impressive so far. Okay. So now we're going to build again. And my goal would be to get that built now, right? And then in the next step to migrate pages router to. So we have a problem here. We have the admin product list, which is now, I don't have a context menu right now. Good, I have a problem here and I don't know because I'm a lazy engineer now. I'm taking that one, try to copy that. Paste it, turn it, no. Okay, it's actually, the pasting is a little bit weird, but it's actually doing that. So I'm passing that problem now to the AI. I had the feeling that I need to take a look into that myself. So there might be an incompatibility right now because of the changes we have made, the migration. And now the thing is thinking for me instead. I'm paying someone else to think for me, actually a machine. Okay, it's doing already. So I need to follow. What happens? So it changes something. The problem is I don't know the component very well right now, so I'm not actually... So it wants to run compile. It's actually a TSC, so it is TypeScript compiler. Don't ask me again. Don't ask me again. You are the engineer right now. You're just telling me that you will do that, and that's okay for me. I say so right now. Maybe I regret later. Actually, don't really know what... So of course, that might be not the very best thing to just fast forward these things, but we have a video and we want to take a look how self-sufficient would that software be right now. In a real case scenario, we would of course take a little bit more, go more into detail what this thing is actually doing. So it's updating now. It's making refactorings. It understood a problem and is going for a solution. And I am not 100% sure if it actually knows right now exactly, if it was going through several times already in a hypothesis and then take a look for it. But let's take a look. So it now wants me to build that stuff. Yeah, let's go ahead, build it. This can take a little longer then. So far the session has cost me around $2.50, I think. We will see it exactly a little later on. I will take a look in the end regarding costs, right? Costs are very interesting. So if that was actually something of value and if we can get that done, that's actually nothing. Just saying. Oh, it's done. Okay. So that's good. So actually now I have some form of summary every time, which I actually quite like. There are still some other type errors in the code base, but importantly, the specific error you ask about, remaining type errors are related. Okay. Would you like me to fix any other type errors in the code base? Shall we consider the task complete? Yeah, I don't know. Wait, let me take a look. So how is it with the file now? It's still red. It is still red. It's not red anymore. It just took a little bit. Looking for TypeScript in Go 10 times faster. That would be great. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, let's clear that and build again. Let's give it some more tries. It's funny, actually. If that works out, I think I'd take it. Because doing that by yourself, yes, probably it's a little bit better if you do it yourself still. I think, maybe it isn't. But it takes so much time. Cannot find namespace, but I now want the AI to actually change this. So I take that again and just give it as the next thing. So it's a stack trace. No, it's not just a trace, but there is a file and an error message. The issue is that the code is using JSX element, but in React isn't imported in that way, makes the JSX namespace available. Let's fix this by updating the import statement and change the type annotation. And we see it right here. So it is actually the solution and it's working out. If it's doing that in multiple files, isn't it? No, it is still the same file. No, it's doing it in multiple files. So it is already going one step ahead, which I would have done as well. Sees that as an issue and fixes that issue instead of waiting for me to give the command, do it in all files. You need to know for yourself right now if you actually want to type in, hey, I want to progress and show me everything step by step. If you do that in real production, I would recommend to do a step-by-step approach and just make sure that it actually works. But as far as I understand, you can just quit the session, restart the session with Claude, and then you would have resetted that. So it wants me to build again, which I will confirm. It is clouding right now, right? It is quite fast. So to be honest now, I was imagining something much slower. But it isn't slow. I am a little bit afraid right now. So it is doing so many things for me right now, here in that moment, without me doing it. Really, I have problems follow. Of course, I'm recording a video, but I would need to follow that in order to just try to process what this AI is doing that. So it is extremely important to have some form of code reviews between you and your AI, because the AI is actually doing so much of the actual hands-on work right now, and I'm just going through. And the migration process is pretty straightforward. So there are not too many architectural things you need to decide. It is more like bulk work. And let's take a look. What's next? npm tsc. So it wants to verify. This is awesome. This is really awesome. Really now. I wasn't expecting something like that. It is going from one problem to the next one. If there is another problem, it reiterates, it rethinks, it reasoning those things, and is going for a solution. Good news, there are no errors. Okay, no errors, sorry. This means output confirm specific error fixed. So we have a summary again. Identified the error in headline scene TSX and replaced JSX with React element. Fix similar issues in BL control, whatever that file is. That looks weird. Anyway, there's always room to improve, right? In each case, we imported React and replaced. So it took quite long to just do these kind of things. But what was so interesting, it was actually doing verifications like I do them myself as well. When I use things like ChatGPT or the built-in thing here, like the things like the JetBrains assistant here, they simply tell me when I ask them about things, it will tell me some form of answer so I can do it myself. This thing is actually doing it, right? Okay, so it has done something. It was in, let's take a look. We're taking a look at the file now. So it's red. It's not red anymore. So we're taking a look at that file. It is good as well. So, great so far. Let's build again. Give it some more challenges. It's still not working. So let's take a look what happens in that file there. So we have wrapper reference. Oops. Error type, ref object, now it's not assignable to head element. There is some incompatibility, so the types have changed during the migration. So I would basically do that myself as well. But as we still have a Claude session today, we're telling Claude now to do something for us. Hey Claude, we have a problem here. So why do I think it is a good thing to actually have that? Because you save a lot of time with those ridiculous repetitive tasks. So that might be the case in multiple files now because it was okay. Sometimes you copy files. You have a lot of engineers working on the project. And yeah, you want to have some very good AI in that case watching over those files and telling you how you actually stay or how you be there in that moment. And if that is actually working out. Now it does enter generics as it seems. Yeah, T extends. It's just walking through the code. It's a little bit like, I'm feeling now like the typical manager type of seasoned senior engineer who's sitting there, actually don't do the code anymore. Just, hey, I have an error message here. Please take a look. Just do it. And this thing is doing that. To be honest, that doesn't feel so well when we think about that, because here's actually a machine doing programming. That's what's coding. That's what happens here right now. Right in front of me, there is a machine somewhere who is doing what I have done for so many years now. I've started with programming 32 years ago when I was 8 with BASIC, and then I proceeded. I have done so much stuff, probably 20, 30,000 hours of deliberate work with code. And now such a thing comes along and just doing that so much faster than I could ever do it. Does it do it better or not? I don't know yet. I will see in the end when I go through the review. Does do a grab. So does it somewhere try to explain me? Let me check all imports in the file to locate where the hook is imported. It created a file which tries to find everything or every occurrence of that one. So I would have done that myself, probably some kind of search thing where I was searching for similar types. This thing does it now in a very interesting fashion. It does basically try to... I'm so stunned. Sorry, I don't know what to say. There's a machine in that moment substituting me after 32 years of coding. It's just doing what I've done so much faster. Can I go home now? It doesn't want to run build anymore. I already trust that thing way too much, I think. I actually don't like that I'm sitting here pressing enter. Because the next step is that it just do the entire thing. Like, I could try to ask this thing, please finish the migration. Shall we do that? Shall we ask these things? And maybe charge a little bit more with my credit card, but yeah. Okay, it's still doing that. It's still fixing things. It's, you know what? Yeah, I trust you. Just do it. I understood already that you want to do this. And I understood as well that I don't care what actually happens there. Just simply wanted to see that. So let's go ahead. Just do your thing. Be happy. Just charge me. And if it's good, I actually take it. And then the charge was actually worth it. When I count the ROI cost and I count this machine cost, this machine is cheaper. Yeah, I can do that. Let's go. Do it. How do you feel? Let me know in the comments. How do you feel about a machine which is doing that? Do you think I'm a lazy guy now doing that, or wanted to actually waiting maybe for a machine to do my job? But in reality, now let's be honest, if that works out, that is great. If it's not working out, it will be great in a year probably. And it's very likely that we will have some problems. We will see when I start the application, when we go through it and those kind of things. That is interesting. And oh, it's done. So to summarize, first we tried to make the hook more flexible by using generics. Good. That's good. But that didn't fully solve the issue. Okay, so he was basically going in iterations. So he basically got his own feedback and worked on that. So second, so it seems to be multiple instances. So we are a group here. We then tried to create the type definition file to augment React's ref object. But that approach was also problematic. Finally, but what was the problem? Finally, we took the direct approach and modified the ref declarations and components. In previous action select and admin multi-select, we changed that to that. In hindsight, now the hindsight bias, it looked like, oh, I could have done that way quicker than this thing is doing that, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, not in so many files. So this is not a demo database. This is not a personal blog. This is a 90K log frontend application with a lot of files. So in the first run, we had basically 910 files changed in the first run, just alone, let alone the other files existing in that project. Just to save mental capacity as a developer, that is already worth it. So you are more productive. You could even work on multiple projects at the same time migrating. That's interesting. That approach, so let's go at. This approach essentially creates a non-null element reference by type assertion, which satisfy the type constraints of the hooks that were expecting non-null references. While type assertions should be used cautiously, in this case it was an appropriate solution to the specific type of error you were encountering, right? So again, just let it sink in the entire code base. So let's take a look. Oh, it changed. So this is the output, what it actually says. The review will be probably another video. So there are some things which you could be simplified here. That's the typical thing, but that's actually not a big deal here right now. Those kind of things is not that difficult. So in how many files are we now? We are still the same amount of files, of course. So let's take a quick look at the cost so far. So far, that session was $3.55 in a total API duration of 9 minutes and total duration wall, whatever that is, 40 minutes. And we have 420 lines added and 55 lines removed. Needs a review, as I said. Probably we had added these scripts. I wouldn't really count that as a refactoring measurement because adding so much and don't remove that much, I don't feel that it's right. But if I take a look at especially those functions, like those files like these with 100 lines of codes added here, that is of course something which we need to take into consideration. So let's do it again. So let's continue to do that. We are still not through. So there were a lot of changes going on with these files. So let's take a look. Serializer, is that actually a file which we use? What is that? Deserialize, not context. Okay, let's... I don't even know what that is. Helper rich text. I think that's an old version, but anyway, we want to go for tip-tap, but let's quickly fix that one and take a look what will happen. Is it actually auto-updating that one? It's a little bit weird with scrolling because it's a CLI thing. Maybe it's better working in an external thing, but I wanted to have it all in one so you can actually see that. It does do a lot of things, and it does do this npm-tx, so it always checks these kind of current states. So this task takes quite a long, and I want to find out in the summary why, because for me that actually was just one file, but it seems to entirely rework the Slate editor implementation, which I'm not even sure if that is the correct implementation right now, which is still used, or if it's a legacy thing. Never mind, it needs to be fixed in order to that the project is building. But it is interesting. So it's doing a lot of things I wouldn't have thought about, probably because of cognitive problems, because we are biased, because we think, that's just a little fix. And this AI is just moving through those kind of things. It's just moving along and just doing that step by step. Pretty cold-blooded, actually. Maybe I'm overestimating that. It's still doing things. It is, yeah. We're making, well, there's a funny thing. We're making progress. Now we have import issues fixed. Okay. There's actually a lot of story inside there. Maybe I can wrap it up. But basically, it will do the summary for me, as I said. And that is today a very hypothetical thing. So would we work like that in a real environment? Maybe if we really need to have it. Maybe if we have a deadline or something like that. It is a little bit fast right now. But we want to have that somehow condensed to a video-sized format. So we need to push through it. So, you can basically work like you think. It's best with that kind of tooling. So it already runs nearly 400 seconds. Good that I have loaded some credits. Yeah, I'm not sure how it will be handling with the prettier things. So that could be something we need to take into consideration, that we would have a lot of changes in the future because maybe the project isn't pretty yet. So we should make sure that we have a prettier execution before we actually push the code when we're doing these kind of things. If you don't have that already inside your scripts or your Husky or something like that, it might make sense, because if you change 900 files and the 900 files are wrongly formatted, you will have a lot of changes in the future which are basically misleading or unnecessary. Okay, close to 500 seconds execution time now. It looks like it... Oh, no, it's done. No, it's done. You have spent $5 on the API session. Got it, thanks. Yeah, that's okay. So that was actually the... Oh, no, on one session. I have spent $5 on one session. So let's take a look. Oh, wait, but before going through the summarization. So perfect. The specific errors we were asked to fix are no longer showing up in the compilation errors. No more property node does not exist in node error code. No more cannot find namespaces JSX errors. The remaining errors are unrelated to the specific issues we were going to fix. A lot of imports. That took quite a long. So let's take a look where we are with costs. Still, it is not that much. I'll come to that in the end. It's not that much. Let's do the build. We still have errors now. And since I haven't followed it so far, I can quickly go into that file. But what I want to do next is really give it a go. So we now have other problems. And I'm not sure if these problems are actually now there because of the AI or not. So that's one of the downsides, of course, because I wasn't 100% following these kind of things. And this is now missing as well. What I do right now is doing the full approach. So I ask now, please fix all build problems as long as there are no more problems in the build log. Please do it autonomously. I think that's right. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Maybe I can go make myself a coffee right now. Maybe that is something what I could have done in the beginning already, but I wanted to see how it actually is working. So right now, would I do that on an ongoing basis with a migration? So since this is our main project, no, probably not. Not today, maybe in a year or two. I wanted to test it out, but I want to be in full control. It would be still better to have an engineer sitting there, knowing what's actually going on, or multiple engineers, in doing such a migration together. Would AI be involved in that? Yes, of course. That's totally fine. But not in the manner like I was doing it right now. So just pushing things through and you're just hitting enter all day long. I simply wanted to see today how the AI is working in an autonomous way, if it's getting to a point or not. So when I compare that to things like ChatGPT or Claude, when you use it in a chat mode, then you have the big problem that it will, on some point in time, forget things, make things wrong, delete things. Those kind of things happen. So it basically destroys your code base. And I don't know what happens right now. These kind of things like that, I need to investigate then later on what happened here. It's already started fixing that, as I see. I don't know. Don't want to change something here right now. This is my biggest fear. So what you definitely need to have are tests. So that's a non-negotiable thing. So you need to have tests which tell you that your application is still working. And then you can do this automated refactorings. But I wouldn't do that. What I've done, this last thing that I just asked the thing to just fix everything, sounds great. But I personally think that the AI isn't that far into the game these days. This is a preview, right? That's a preview version of a new type of technology, which means it is a beta at best. But for a beta, it is wow. That's a super thing. Let's just take a look, fast forward now, what it will do. I will just let it run now and we will take a look at it and just taking a look what happened there. So interestingly here, it is actually excluding some files. We're still having some, let's try a more approach of creating custom TS config for that build that excludes the problematic files. Okay. No, engineers doing that the same is a little bit like many people then go and say, hey, I just create a ticket in that moment and I will fix that later, right? We need to get or push forward with the main task. I understand this. Those are economic constraints we have. We can't do everything perfect, so perfectionism isn't working in real life. So it actually acts a little bit like us every time I see those kind of things. Well, now we have a debounce effect is... He was actually typing something here. That's interesting. Let's take a look if I have enough credits. Okay, now it really goes into the money. So we started with a roughly actually $20, and we are now down to below $11. So it already took us round about $9 to do that. If you compare that to a, let's say, a private thing, a private SaaS solution you rent somewhere, that's quite a lot. You couldn't do that all day long, but if you use that in a professional environment where the engineering hour is actually something, depends on the country of course, but here in Germany, something around $30 to $60 then, or euros, then it's actually not that much. So if you can speed up a process or let that things like this in the future run next to it, so you don't need to let an engineer sit there for 2, 3, 4 hours, or maybe 2 engineers, right? A younger engineer and a senior some, and do these kind of things and focus already on other features. That can be actually quite handy thing. And is it done now? I think we reached the limit. Is there a limit, or is it still doing something? Oh, the slate editor is still not really working. We have a lot of warnings here. But warnings are okay, right? We are software developers. Warnings just give us a little bit of entertainment. Or was he actually wrong? Were you able to complete the Last task. Okay, okay, now I see that. Max tokens exceeded, decrease input. Okay, so there is a limit. So we found a limit. So it is not possible to just run through the entire thing forever, right? So you need to do that actually step by step. So the next step would then be, again, to run pmp build. It's actually horrible how many things have changed. So I will probably try to do that myself in a manual way to take a look how long it takes. Because I have done that in Vita already, and it took me 3 to 4 hours, I think, if I remember right. So I'll give it one more try. Let's do that. Let's quickly do it like this. So I needed to restart the session. There was already too many tokens. Yes, go ahead. The AI says, interesting. The tsconfig build JSON is already excluding the rich text component during the type checking. Let's run the type check command again and see if our slate editor is now still needed. It seems that despite the excluded settings, TypeScript still checking the rich text components. Let's check main config. It looks like there is already an excluded rule. Read, let's add an additional excluding pattern to the TS. That's exactly what a developer is doing as well. You have this, okay, why is that? Maybe, okay, I don't know. Maybe let's take a look into that. So it's reasoning pretty much like a human being. It seems the exclude pattern aren't working as expected. That's often the case. Let's try building the project directly to see. So it's building. The build failed, but you seems to failing different issues inside in place, not the original issue. Let's see if we can add the signal comments to the permitting slide style. Yeah. That is not how I would solve it. To just add some ignores. Yeah. Don't know. I wouldn't have done it like that. Let's take a look if it's actually removing those things again. Let's fix the issue with the slate. So let's also fix another similar error in line blah blah blah. So let's also fix another similar error in line 252, which is doing that now. Let's fix the errors with the buttons. There is yeah, okay. Let's run the build again and see if we have fixed the issues. So if I pay a machine less than actually earn per hour to do my job in an hour, is it actually more efficient for me to do that? So it's actually a good business model, right? So people will do that probably. And that will change a lot. Let's be honest. That will change a lot. Oh, okay. Do you have it fixed now, or is it now? Let's take a look if you are quality driven or not, right? Let's take a look at what you have done so far to the code base. Linting is already going through. And now it's doing a production build. If only we had a TypeScript Go version already. So it looks good. So we have a build. Guys, we have a build. We are close to a build now. It's very close. It's a good amount of changes. That would be definitely something with a pull request, even though we're doing continuous delivery and trunk-based development. Okay, since we have page router in compatibility mode for that version, it should be able to run. So where's the error? I want to have the red going away. So it was actually working. Let's kill the storage and take a look what happens. Wow, that is quite stunning. So fellows, we have done a migration. Is it completely done? No, it's not finished yet. The nitty-gritty are still missing. So we probably need to go through some CSS upgrades, some imports, correct those things, taking a look what happened to the service worker, why those implementations aren't working anymore. Does that have something to do with Next PWI or something like that? But this video wasn't about actually doing the migration. It was about, can we actually use in AI very efficiently as a substitute for the hands-on part? So the only thing I've done during the video, or let's say 99% of my time, was to actually prompt, copy paste, or take a look, or make decisions. Everything else was executed by the AI in roughly an hour. So regarding costs, let's take a look. We had nearly 28 million tokens in. So basically the input we gave, the output was 70,000 tokens. So we spent, let's take a look, usage. So we spent roughly $11 on the entire session. So it took me several, I think it was 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that, to actually get to the point where I was going manually through all these kind of things, copy pasting, fixing imports, all those kind of things, right? Until the moment where you actually can build it for the first time, let it run, and you see a halfway decent output. So the AI is actually very helpful. What was very strange for me was that the AI was doing so many things, and I was sitting there and I actually lost a little bit track of what was going on. So I needed to read the summary very clearly, what the AI is actually doing. So for the next future, I want to use Claude Code with my fellow peers to actually improve our work. But we will do it gradually, step by step, and definitely not blindly. So we as developers, we know what we do. We make mistakes as well. It's not like that. But we know that we are in the context where we want to be, right? So when it comes to efficiency, it definitely helps me to be more efficient. So we're talking about 1 hour versus 3 hours of migration time. So comparison from Vite and Next.js is pretty much the same. Have I migrated to Pages Router yet? Not yet. That would be the next video, because videos, length, those kind of things. But this will be the next video. You can watch it then as well and take a look how that actually worked out. Another test where we say go from page router to app router. In this current version, the page router is still running as we saw, but I want to have a client-side only app router version migrated in the next video. You can watch it then as well. Okay, I will write a blog article about that with all the kind of information, screenshots, and data for you to read on my blog, blog.snackablecto.coach. Take a look at that. And as always, I hope that was helpful for you to not miss the next video. Like and subscribe. That would be awesome anyway, because yeah, those type of videos, they're actually quite expensive to make. So final verdict, Claude Code is a good tool or not? Yes, it is. And we all should have that on mind. This is not a chat tool anymore, which is giving us some crap code advice by not knowing what's actually going on in your code. This one knows, and this one iterates through those kind of problems which will come up during development, things to which you need to adapt as well as a human being. The machine does that as well. And it sees, oh, there is actually something as well. I just fix it as well, right? So it thinks in transition to another problem with cross-thinking. That is something only humans have done so far. And now a machine can do that as well. Was it perfect? Probably not. There were some strange mistakes, some smaller hiccups, but not as many as I have expected from, I'm a heavy user of ChatGPT models, right? I see a lot of errors there. And what I saw today is way better, way better. It's a universe difference, because when I saw it this morning, I saw in a demo project what it was capable of doing. I, for the first time, was thinking, yes, AI will replace the hands-on part. That's the reality. So we always have the chance to stay software engineers and work on higher levels. But if you are going for the pure programming stuff and you love to program, so I'm doing that for 32 years now, 33 actually. I love programming. I really love it. I don't do it all day long, but I still love it. And I have to say, there is means to an end. It will end in the near future that this is actually a pure full-time job to code. So every developer who wants to stay in this sector, in this business, in this industry, needs to learn how to be an engineer and not to be a pure programmer anymore. And everyone else who doubts that this is the case, look at this video, try it out yourself. This is the status quo. This is the current state. Think ahead what happens in 1, 2, or 3 years. And then you will see, or you should be able to imagine, what actually will happen to our industry. It won't be destroyed, but it will change significantly. And you should adapt as early as possible and stop listening to your inner resistance. The change is coming. It is coming. No matter how much you think it's garbage output, it will change everything. Okay, that's it. In the next video, we're going through an actual migration of page router to app router. Today, I say thank you for staying with me that long. See you next time. Goodbye.